Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Ryan, and if you did not see my last video, I'm a type 1 diabetic. I have been a type 1 diabetic for almost 35 years. It'll be 35 years this April. And this is my journey in making my life better because of making better choices with diabetes. I've spent far too long making poor choices and not taking as good a care of myself as I should, and it's time for that to stop. And this is, like I said, this is my journey with that. I want to welcome you all on that journey, specifically for the purpose of trying to help people that could be going through the same thing, that don't know that there's somebody else out there that's going along with it, or that people who are going down this path are not vocalizing it, and so that you think that there's not a way to do it. Well, I have found a way, and it might not be the way for everybody, but there are multiple ways that you can make your life better with diabetes. And I hope to talk about all of those ways in my videos. I am not a doctor. None of this is medical advice or should be taken as advice in any way, shape, or form. Go see your doctor, talk to your endocrinologist before making decisions that could affect your health. That being said, the Juice Box podcast has completely changed my life over the last 3 weeks, almost a month now, with my diabetes. And I have learned so much because of it. In my last video, and if you haven't watched it, go back and watch it. And while you're there, like and subscribe to the channel so that you can continue to see the videos that I'm going to post about my journey with diabetes and how it's getting better and what I'm doing to do that. And stories from my past. I've got all kinds of stories that I'm sure that a lot of people can relate to or with. And I want to be an open book. I want to be here just as a motivation, accountability partner with anybody who's got type 1 diabetes as a part of their life, either themselves, or they're the parents of a diabetic, or they're the caregiver of a diabetic, a husband or a wife of a diabetic. It affects so many different people that we need more people in the community to come out and talk to each other about it. And that's what I love about the Juicebox podcast is that the guy who runs it, his name is Scott. His daughter got diagnosed, and he completely dove in headfirst, learning how to take care of it. And he has taught me more in the last 3 weeks listening to that podcast than I've learned in the entire time with diabetes. All that to be said, I'm excited to go down this journey, and I want other people to be excited about it as well. So, my last video was leading up to my doctor's my endocrinologist appointment. I had just had my blood drawn to get my A1C test done, and now I have those numbers. Okay, my A1C test for this last that I just got back on Wednesday was a 10.7. If you didn't watch the video, in the video I said it's going to be my last high A1C. Okay, and I mean that. Before that A1C, the last A1C that I had was in August of 2023 and 11.1. And then the last A1C that I had that was below a 10% was in August of 2017 at an 8.8. These are all very, very high numbers. Um, the CDC and the ADA both recommend that type 1 diabetic has an A1C of 7% or less, which means an average blood sugar of 154. And I'm nowhere near that until the last 3 weeks. And I'll talk about that in a minute. My last A1C at a 10.7 means that my average blood sugar was 261. 100 points higher, 107 points higher than what it should be because of what an A1C should be for a type 1 diabetic. 11.1 is an average blood sugar of 272, and an 8.8 that I had in 2017 was a 2.6. I'm sorry, a 206 average blood sugar. These blood sugars are elevated for such a long period of time that it definitely causes issues. And in 2015, I had my first, or 2014, I had my first surgery on my eyes because of my diabetes. Um, I've had 3 surgeries because of diabetic retinopathy, which comes from not taking care of your diabetes. And it who knows what else could go wrong, but I do know that I'm not gonna let it continue to ruin my body. Here's some little information about why that happens and what it is, right? So what I've always known an A1C to be is just the average of a 3 months blood sugar. I didn't know why they test it or what exactly is being tested. So here it is, just in case you don't know either. The A1C test, also known as the hemoglobin A1C, is a simple blood test that measures your average blood sugar levels over the past 3 months. It is one of the commonly used tests to diagnose prediabetes and diabetes, and is the main test to help you and your healthcare team manage your diabetes. Higher A1C levels are linked to diabetes complications, so reaching and maintaining your individual A1C goal is really important if you have diabetes. Um, what does the A1C test measure? So this is something that I've never known, and it measures that when sugar enters your bloodstream, everything we eat has sugar in it for the most part, right? Obviously, minus things that are, sugar-free. Um, Certain vegetables don't have sugar in it, but if it has a carbohydrate in it, eventually it breaks down into sugar. So even things that say zero sugar, but they have carbohydrates in them, will break down into sugar, and then this happens. So when it enters your bloodstream, it attaches to hemoglobin, a protein in your red blood cells. Everyone has some sugar attached to their hemoglobin, but people with higher blood sugar levels have more, so predominantly type 1 diabetics. The A1C test measures the percentage of your red blood cells that have sugar-coated hemoglobin. Now, I heard about on the Juicebox podcast, there was an episode they were talking about this, and this great illustration that he painted using his voice. And so I'm gonna tell you that, but I'm also going to show you. Okay. So as we just learned, and that was straight from the CDC website, that the A1C is measuring the sugar that's being attached to your hemoglobin, and that is the main protein in your blood. So sugar attached to your blood cells that's traveling through your entire body, through your heart, through your brain, every single part of your body. Here is our two pictures of what sugar looks down under a microscope. One of them is on um, like a super level of it. It's called a micrograph, and this is like a very, very like zoomed in microscope looking at sugar, and the other one is table sugar. Um, just like basically like if you were to in a microscope. Okay, these all have very sharp edges. Now imagine this being attached to your blood cells and traveling through your body. It is damaging your body as it's traveling through there. So as a diabetic with a high A1C, meaning there's high levels of sugar in my blood at all times, this is what's been traveling through my body for 10 or more years, just wreaking havoc on my body, right? That is something that that every diabetic needs to know and needs to be able to realize that this is what's going through your body. There are ways to fix it, and we will get into those ways in other videos. This video is just about my A1C, kind of what an A1C is, and then I want to also just touch on this A1C chart that I looked up, okay? And why I think that having an A1C at 7% or less is, yeah, that's fantastic, right? But I think as diabetics, we should be striving for better, because at like I said, a 7% A1C, the average blood sugar is 154. But they recommend that your blood sugar be 130, between 80 and 130. So why do they recommend that, but not have the lower A1C test as the recommendation? The other thing is a normal A1C for somebody who's normal, not diabetic, below a 5.7. To get below a 5.7, you need an average blood sugar of 117. To be considered pre-diabetic, your A1C is between a 5.7 and a 6.4. To get to there, your average blood sugar is 117 to 137. So a 5.7 A1C is where you should be if you are keeping your blood sugars between the 80 and 130 level, and that's on the high end of that level, right? So we should all be striving for those numbers. I think that it's achievable to have a 6.4 A1C, keeping your blood sugar at 137 or lower. Okay. This is what has gotten to me, is that over the last 35 years, I didn't know it was possible for me to do this because I didn't have the education that I should have been given. And in the last 3.5 weeks or so, I have been able to see it for myself on the Dexcom and using the pump and using strategies that I've learned in the Juicebox podcast. My last video showed that my average blood sugar was 113 over a 2-week period. My average blood sugar over a now 2-week period, so it's 1 week later and whatever, but my average blood sugar is showing at 111. Okay. If you want to, to see where I'm getting some of these numbers from, AccuCheck has this really great website that shows you that it has an A1C calculator. If you just go to Google and you type in A1C calculator, it's the first thing that pops up. It's accucheck.com, and it takes you right to it, and you can type it in. Now, if I type in my average 111 blood sugars that have been showing me for the last 2 weeks, and if I'm able to carry that for a 3-month period for 90 days, my A1C will be a 5.49, which is below what is considered normal for a non-diabetic, and that is 100% going to be my goal. I may reach it, I may not, but I'm going to do everything I can to get there. I don't see why not. I don't see why I shouldn't be trying to be the best that I can be. If somebody who's not diabetic has levels as high as what they're saying a diabetic should be at, they would be considered a diabetic now. And I don't think that we should be striving to just be better diabetics. It just doesn't make sense. Guys, I'm excited to keep going down this journey with you. I'm excited to do this with you and to be here for you. Last thing I want to say is that one of the things that I think could have really helped me throughout my journey with this is to have more accountability. And like I said, that's one of my goals here. Your accountability, I think, should also kind of come from your doctor. Now, doctors don't have all the time in the world, right? You go to the doctor, you have 15 minutes with them, and they can't teach you everything. So get out there and learn more. Watch my videos. Go listen to the Juicebox podcast. You'll learn a ton. At the bottom of the paperwork that the doctor hands you when you get your A1C, it tells you what your A1C was, and then it tells you the range below. All right? So the range below is where I read those ranges earlier, and then right below that, it tells you what it means. If you have an A1C of a 7% or less, you're meeting the ADA and the CDC's recommended goal for therapy. If you're at a 7 to an 8, you're exceeding that recommended goal. And if you're above an 8, the ADA recommends reevaluation of therapy. Like I showed you, my last A1C that was below a 10% was an 8.8, so still very elevated. Over the last 10 years being at this doctor's office, my lowest A1C was a 7.8, so just barely better than what that says. And not once has my care been reevaluated. Do I blame the doctors? No. And I'll go into that more in another video. I don't completely blame the doctors. I do think that they should have definitely been talking to me in harder terms so that I know how serious it is, because I didn't really know how serious it was, even though I did. And I know that that's confusing, but life is confusing. Diabetes is confusing. We'll get more into that in another video, but just know that you can do it. I know you can do it. You can get your blood sugars under control, and I want to be here for you. So guys, let's continue this journey together, and I will talk to you on the next video. Thanks. Bye.